Well, thank you so much for that incredibly meaningful grounding and really a tool which we hope that you all take to heart, take for consideration, on ways to be really an authentic relationship with First Peoples. We so appreciate starting our session there and acknowledging that the work that we're all doing collectively is really intended to be a process of co-design with community. That's something I really carry deeply from what you shared as well. So we really appreciate your contribution here today. So we're going to shift slightly now into our keynote, which I'm really pleased to present and introduce to all of you. Ra Joy, our Chief of Staff at the National Endowment for the Arts, appointed by the Biden-Harris administration on day one. And he brings more than 25 years of senior leadership and experience in the arts, public policy, and nonprofit management to the agency. I could go on and on about his bio, but I think what my highlight and takeaway, and probably something that will resonate to all of you, is that he's a really exceptional asset at our agency, and you'll soon learn just how big a supporter is for all the work that you are doing through the Our Town program and the work that you are doing in community. So we're going to switch over to some remarks by Ra, as well as an interview with him.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ra Joy, and I'm proud to serve as Chief of Staff at the National Endowment for the Arts. It's so great to be with all of our creative placemaking grantees and their partners. This is a time of enormous consequence for our country. This is a time when we all need what art brings us, and we really appreciate you making time to participate in this interactive session. I mentioned to Jen that this is a busy and consequential time for all of us at the Arts Endowment. There are some overarching priorities that align the work of our agency with the Biden-Harris administration, and would love to just start at a high level with some of those priorities that are top of mind for us right now. The first is rebuilding the creative economy and getting our creative workers back to work. This is all about reversing the damage of COVID-19 and providing support and assistance for arts organizations to rehire and reopen. A second overarching priority for us right now is around uniting and healing the nation. And this is really about tapping into the power of culture and the arts to help usher in a healthier and more hopeful future. The Arts Endowment is proud to maintain a portfolio of initiatives really at the intersection of the arts, healing, and public health. A third focus area for us is around advancing equity, access, and justice. And this is really about the role that the arts play in illuminating urgent issues of social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice. This is amplifying the role that culture and creative expression can play in animating the core idea of liberty and justice for all. A fourth focus area for us is on the agency and our ability to serve the field. And this is really about operational excellence. We know that nothing we plan for is possible if we don't take care of our people and our network of arts agencies at all levels of government. It's great to be with you all, and really appreciate the work that you're doing, and look forward to a robust discussion today. Okay, cut. That's it. I'm done. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ra. It's such an honor to have you join us with us today. And I think being a semi-new face at the NEA, I would just maybe start by asking you personally, what are you most excited about at the agency in this moment of November 2021? What are some of the things that really get you going, get you excited for our agency and its future?
I think the thing that energizes me is meeting the magnitude of this moment and really taking an expansive view around the role that culture and the arts can play in our communities and at all levels of government. I mentioned, being at the agency since January, and I do want to say that I am grateful to work for an administration that values the presence and importance of culture and the arts. What energizes me is this idea of not only supporting strong cultural agencies, in addition to the National Endowment for the Arts and our sister agencies, the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Institute for Museums and Library Services. It's really also looking at the role that the arts can play across the federal family and in all aspects of healthy civic and community life. And this notion that our artists, our cultural organizations, our culture bearers have an active role to play in promoting health and wellness, in addressing persistent issues of injustice and inequality, in building a sense of community and a sense of place when we all need it. And so what I'm excited about is really the power of the arts to tap into our shared humanity and our shared sense of connection. I believe that art in all its forms has the ability to help us better understand ourselves and the changing world around us. And if we're going to confront any of these urgent issues that we're facing, whether it's climate change, whether it's the public health crisis presented by COVID, whether it's persistent issues of inequality, we have to first and foremost see each other and hear each other. And I think our collective future hinges upon our ability to recognize our common humanity and to take action together. What energizes me is this notion of how many artists and cultural organizations are stepping up to address issues of systemic inequality, longstanding historic issues around systems and the need to reimagine systems, and a willingness to address persistent harm. I think there's an increasing recognition the power that culture and the arts can play. And certainly those are things we need right now. Those are key ingredients we need right now to address and solve the issues that confront us as a nation.
Well, you so beautifully captured, I think, sort of the magic of what really happens in the Our Town program. So many of these grantees are really addressing some of these long systemic issues in their communities and bringing new attention, bringing new energy, connecting with community in a really deep and meaningful way. I think that it's really exciting to hear from you a little bit about, this historic moment, 18 plus months into the pandemic, a moment of massive recovery funding, and yet, we're still, a lot of us are still in our homes, still a little bit isolated. What would you really impart to the arts and culture field, being at that 30,000 foot level and what you're seeing across the agency funded work? What sort of advice or energy would you share with them based on what you're really seeing at that high level?
The first thing I would want to convey is deep gratitude and a message of hope, and to encourage people to hang in there and stay strong. Another message is to challenge yourselves to take the blinders off. And whether it's just from an arts funding landscape and thinking about resources at the local, state, and regional level, or thinking about organizing horizontally. So looking at other disciplines, other sectors, other fields where you have an opportunity to lock arms and promote coordination. I want to convey a message of hope and resilience and the importance of taking on an expansive view when it's easy to be in a crouched position.
That's a great message. And just sort of on that note, because I really certainly see within the Our Town portfolio over the last decade and being so inspired by the work that's happening in local communities across the country, one of the things that we're thinking about in this learning lab is really issues of equity, and equity in multiple dimensions, and how we issue and convey artist calls, and how we deeply engage community in this work, how we partner and acknowledge some of the power sharing that has to really happen for us to move forward in community. And so just in reflecting on that work happening locally across the country, could you speak a little bit to how this maybe connects or reverberates throughout our agency and some of the deeper equity agenda that the Biden-Harris administration is really deeply committed to?
Yeah, I'll start big picture and then maybe drill down to the agency and to the arts sector. But on day one of his administration, President Biden signed an ambitious executive order directing all U.S. departments and agencies to center equity in all that they do. And the first order of business was for agencies to conduct a racial equity analysis to identify potential barriers to reaching and serving traditionally underserved communities. That notion of putting equity front and center is something that's top of mind for all agencies and for the Arts Endowment. And I do want to emphasize that that's not new for our agency. The Arts Endowment has always held itself to a high standard when it comes to issues of diversity and inclusion. Whether it's looking at the launch of the Expansion Arts Program or the work in our town, equity has always been a part of the work of the agency. And I say you'd be hard pressed to find any other agency of government that's closer to the people than the work of the Arts Endowment. I would say one of the things I really appreciate about your portfolio and your evolving portfolio is this notion of systems change, this notion of power and how power works in community, who is centered in the work and who decides. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about in looking at some of the projects you're funding is a different approach, an approach that is not afraid to recognize and address long-standing issues of inequality and to recognize long-standing harm that may exist in communities. This notion of centering creativity and cultural expression as essential ingredients to a vibrant community, and this notion of amplifying community assets and really amplifying community aesthetics and stories. And those approaches, I think, are really great learning laboratories for our work nationally, and it's inspiring to see what's happening across the country.
That's fantastic. And, I think just in listening to you speak, the audience here might be sort of curious as to how some of these agendas and the work and the portfolios that we're funding kind of all add up. So the NEA is undergoing a strategic planning process. This is something every 5 years that is required as part of the Office of Management and Budget process. And I wonder, Rob, if you could speak a little bit to some of the threads of what's coming out and resonating. I know certainly there has been recognition that in addition to grant funding, there are other ways that NEA can really support the arts and culture ecosystem. And I'd just be curious to hear some of your reflections on that strategic planning process and how that may shape where our agency goes into the future.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, I want to give a special shout out to Sunil Iyengar, who's our Director of Research and Analysis. I think he's done a terrific job, both with the development of the plan, but also designing a public engagement process that's been very open and inclusive. I also want to say thank you to folks in this Zoom room who took the time to read the draft plan, to share thoughts and recommendations. There are a few things I'd love to elevate that are part of the draft plan. And right now, I should say it's been submitted to the Office of Management and Budget. So we feel really good about the place that we're in. The first is the cross-cutting objective of the plan, which is all about equity and inclusion. And then the second thing I would want to elevate is a focus on building the strength of the field and providing capacity building support to stakeholders and the broader community. I think many people see the Arts Endowment as a grant-making agency. And yes, of course, we award grants, but we do so much more. And the plan really emphasizes the role that the Arts Endowment plays as a leader and convener. And one of the overarching strategic goals is around building capacity and infrastructure for the arts sector. And so I know that that's really important. That connects directly with today's session and our efforts to build a learning cohort, a learning community, and to promote this idea of a community of practice. And so those are things we're really excited about as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I think just to sort of keep on this topic for a moment of things happening at the NEA, I was wondering if you might be able to share a little bit about our chair nomination process, where we are in that. We've had some exciting news that we've had a nominee. If you could perhaps share a bit with this audience.
Yeah, absolutely. We're beyond excited. On October 5th, President Biden announced his intention to nominate Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson to become the next chair of the National Endowment for the Arts. Dr. Jackson needs no introduction to folks who care about culture and creative placemaking. She's no stranger to the Arts Endowment. She has served as a member of the National Council on the Arts since 2013. She brings a distinguished life and career in systems change and comprehensive community development and arts and culture to the role. Her nomination is historic for so many reasons. When confirmed, if confirmed by the Senate, Dr. Jackson will become the first African-American and Mexican-American woman to serve as chair of our agency. She really is a champion for the work of the NEA, and we're really excited about the nomination process.
Thanks, Ra. And I imagine to many here, as you said, Dr. Jackson is not a stranger to the work that you all are really leading and doing. So that's really exciting to track the process from here on out in nomination. Well, we're running out of time, and it really brings us to a moment of close. This is going to be a really exciting day with all of our R-Town grantees and our resource team practitioners in the field of creative placemaking. And we're going to be gathering for 3 Wednesdays over November. And I just wonder, as we embark on this engagement, as folks embark on the work that they're doing locally in their R-Town funded project work, do you just have any parting words or thoughts before we bid you goodbye?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. And a few parting thoughts. The first is to take advantage of this moment and to engage deeply with your colleagues across the country. Going back to your question about the strategic plan, there really is value in building bonds of trust and connection among practitioners. So we hope you use this as an opportunity to deepen relationships there. The second is to imagine new possibilities. We're in a moment where we need to envision a new way forward, envision a new future, and we hope that everyone gathered today taps into this moment with great imagination. And then the final piece is to really see your pilots as learning opportunities and a chance for us all to learn from each other on a journey toward justice and toward systems change. So those would be a few parting thoughts to share with folks gathered today.
Well, thank you all so very much. It's hard to really follow up with that that exciting close and launch into our time together. Just want to acknowledge we're going to take a quick break and join back at 2 p.m. Eastern time on the top of the hour. So you have about 10 minutes, but you can stay here. Feel free to just turn your cameras off, mute. We're going to have some jazzy music to energize us as we move into our next session right at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be diving into our grantee spotlight. So thank you so much. If you do need to leave and come back, just use the same link and you'll be able to join right back into this room. Stay tuned. Thanks.